It's funny. Usually when we talk about getting a medical diagnosis, there's this expectation of like extreme precision.
Oh, totally. You expect it to be practically engineering.
Right. You fall off your bike, your arm swells up, you go to the hospital and they take an x-ray, and you just see that jagged white line on the bone.
Yeah, and the doctor just points at the screen and says, well, there it is. There's your problem.
Exactly. It's clean, it's binary. But then you step out of the physical sciences and into the world of measuring human behavior.
Which is incredibly messy.
So messy, especially when we're talking about how groups of humans form habits or rules. Suddenly that x-ray machine just completely shorts out.
Yeah, we're looking at a diagnostic landscape that is, well, it's completely invisible in a lot of ways.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're exploring how algorithms are secretly writing the rules of our society.
And crucially, why the scientists who study this are basically unequipped to measure it.
Right. So we are diving into some fascinating new research by Dr. Vladimir Duychikov, and specifically, we're focusing on institutional design for the AI age, episode 2, platforms as empirical stress tests.
It's such a critical paper because we're sitting on this massive, almost comical paradox right now.
Okay, let's unpack this because, think about your smartphone. Think about pulling down to refresh your timeline.
We all do it without thinking.
Right. It's an ingrained habit. A micro rule you follow. We have more behavioral data from billions of those little timeline pulls than ever before in human history.
But our classic foundational theories for understanding how society organizes itself, they completely fall apart when applied to digital platforms.
It's wild. The platforms you interact with every single day aren't just passively hosting your vacation photos.
No, they are actively running these continuous massive-scale governance experiments on billions of people.
And usually without any explicit consent. So today, our mission is to transition from how old theories fail to how algorithms break our basic assumptions of reality, and finally, look at a radical new framework for measuring behavior.
Let's start with institutional theory itself. Because usually people hear institution and they think of like a brick-and-mortar bank.
Or a government building, right. But in sociology, an institution is really just a stable pattern of behavior. The rules of the road.
Exactly. Why do we stop at a red light? Why do we shake hands? For decades, scholars talked about this using terms like rules, norms, constraints, and shared mental models.
But the paper points out this massive measurement crisis. These concepts sound great in a textbook, but you can't actually operationalize them.
No, you can't. You can't put a brain under a microscope and find the physical manifestation of a cultural norm.
Right, like how do you measure a shared mental model? Take Douglas North. He won a Nobel Prize, and in 1990, he defined institutions as the rules of the game in a society.
Which separates the rules from the players. It's a very elegant metaphor.
It is, but I mean, it feels like trying to weigh a ghost.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Because if an institution is just an incentive structure in someone's head.
A constraint on how they think.
Yeah, how do we know it exists if we can't observe it? We see the behavior, but we can't see the actual rule.
We're just inferring the ghost from the breeze in the room. And researchers have deconstructed North's work on this. It relies on these untestable game-theoretic assumptions.
Like assuming actors just naturally know the rules.
Right. It's an identification problem. If a scientist can't specify who learns what rule or when, the empirical side is just guesswork.
So then you have W. Richard Scott trying to fix this in 2014 with his 3 pillars: regulative, normative, and cultural cognitive.
And that third one, cultural cognitive, is the real issue. It's defined as taken-for-granted assumptions.
Which, descriptively, is brilliant. It captures human autopilot, but for data science.
Well, it's a nightmare. How do you measure a taken-for-granted assumption in raw platform data? You just can't.
And others tried to synthesize this as shared beliefs. But recent models proved you can't reverse engineer those from observable data either. Still just weighing ghosts.
Which brings us to the visual diagram in the source material. It contrasts the past with the present.
Let's walk through that. In the past, you had this static world. A citizen just moved between rigid entities: the government, courts, the library, social norms.
But the instruments we use to measure that past world, like the Worldwide Governance Indicator.
Right, or the Economic Freedom Index.
Exactly. They only measure policy outcomes, not the actual institutions themselves.
So if these theories are robust, they should work in environments where we have the most data, right? Like digital platforms.
That's exactly where they hit a brick wall.
Mm.
Which brings us to our first empirical stress test.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The A/B testing illusion. The gold standard of modern measurement just completely crumbles here.
It does. A/B testing is supposed to be the bedrock of causal inference. You randomly assign users to see, say, a green button or a red button.
And that random assignment is key. It's how we know medicines work in clinical trials. If the groups are random, any difference is because of the button color.
But on platforms like Meta and Google, that foundational principle of random assignment systematically fails.
Wait, really? Because if I go into an ad manager, I literally click a button that says split my audience evenly?
You might click that, but the platform's machine learning algorithm is doing something completely different on the back end.
So it's not a coin flip.
Not at all. The algorithm actively selects which users see which variant in real time, optimizing for click-through probability.
Oh, because the platform only makes money if people actually click.
Precisely. The algorithmic targeting completely confounds the science. Every single user is an unwitting participant in maybe 10 simultaneous experiments right now.
And you're just getting targeted based on millions of hidden variables, like, say I run a test with a positive ad and a negative ad.
Variant A and variant B.
Right. The algorithm realizes angry people click the negative ad and happy people click the positive one.
So it immediately stops showing the negative ad to happy people. It funnels it straight to the angry users to maximize clicks.
And then I get my data back and think, wow, the negative ad was so effective, but it wasn't. The treatment effect is totally confounded.
Yes, studies call this interference bias. The algorithm is introducing massive non-stationarities over time.
It's like a scientist running a rat maze, but the maze walls are actively shifting in real time to guarantee the rat gets the cheese.
That's exactly the platform as architect problem. The signal and the algorithmic filter are not independent. The platform is an active, opaque agent.
So if the algorithms are actively shifting the walls of the maze, what happens when they start cutting off certain paths for certain people?
That leads to the second major fracture point, algorithmic exclusion.
This is where we get into the STEM advertising case from 2018. Women were found to be significantly less likely to be targeted by ads for science and tech education.
And it's crucial to be impartial here. This was not an explicit sexist policy by the platform.
Right, there was no biased engineer checking a box saying exclude women.
No, it was pure, cold, algorithmic optimization, the economics of the algorithm.
So how does the map actually work there?
Well, broadly speaking, women are more expensive to target on social media because they control more household discretionary spending.
Oh, so retail brands are bidding higher for their attention in the ad auction.
Exactly. So female attention is a premium commodity. If your STEM ad has a fixed budget, the algorithm wants to maximize clicks per dollar.
So it just buys cheaper male attention.
Yes, the algorithmic filter preferentially delivered the ads to men.
Which creates what the research calls institutions no one chose.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it completely collapses classical theory. An institution supposedly requires a rule or a norm.
But here, no rule mandated that women be excluded. No human intended it. No cultural norm prescribed it on the platform.
Yet the outcome is stable, reproducible, and it absolutely shapes human action.
It's wild. Think about what this means for you, the listener. You are navigating institutions that literally no one chose, authored, or approved.
Which forces us to look directly at the entities generating these realities. The platforms themselves.
Right, fracture point 3, the conflation of roles. Classical theory separates the rule makers from the environment.
But a digital platform destroys that separation. They function as a legislator, police, court, and laboratory simultaneously.
Let's list those out. Legislator, because they write the rules through their interface and terms of service.
Right, they dictate what actions are even possible. Then they're the police, enforcing rules through algorithmic filtering and moderation.
Then they're the court, recording your compliance with behavioral logging.
And the laboratory, adjusting the rules in real time through A/B testing.
Scholars like Gillespie have talked about this, how platforms act as custodians shaping public discourse through hidden editorial decisions.
And Matthias and Mu showed how virtual communities develop complex governance logics without any predetermined rules.
Tech corporations are basically functioning as de facto regulators. The algorithmic selection is literally constructing reality.
Exactly. So treating institutions as stable, exogenous constraints just completely fails in algorithmic environments.
So what do we do? If the classical framework fails and we can't hold a black box accountable because we can't see the rules, do we just throw our hands up?
We don't throw our hands up, we throw out the old definitions. We need a framework that measures the black box by its output.
Which brings us to the fix, the behavioral cluster framework. And this relies on Anatol Rapoport's subjectivism from the 70s.
Rapoport argued that systems aren't objectively discovered in nature. They are explicitly carved out and defined by the analyst.
I love this. It's like looking at the stars. The stars are real data points, but the constellations.
Right, the constellations aren't physically real.
Yeah, humans just carve those patterns out of the data to make sense of the sky.
What's fascinating here is that this removes the need to find a hidden rule. Under this new definition, institutions are empirically distinguishable, statistically stable clusters of behavioral trajectories.
The pattern, is the institution. So let's look at the present-day visual diagram. The flow of modern measurement.
It starts with a signal, like a notification on your phone.
Then it passes through a filter, which is the algorithm,
That creates a stimulus on your screen,
which generates a spectrum of possible reactions across the whole population.
and that results in an observable reaction from the user.
Those reactions form a pattern, and over time, that pattern achieves stability.
And that stable pattern is the institution.
So going back to the STEM ad case, how does this framework handle the algorithmic exclusion without needing to find a sexist rule?
We just identify the signal, map the reaction spectrum, and use unsupervised learning to find behavioral clusters.
And you just see a cluster of men highly exposed and a cluster of women excluded.
Exactly. We successfully measured the institution without positing unobservable rules.
It's so clean. So let's get into the three-tier architecture of how researchers actually do this.
Tier 1 is base definitions: the signal, the reaction, the cluster, no unobservable constructs.
Tier 2 is the theoretical scaffold. This involves things like habituation and perception filters.
And signal-to-norm dynamics. There's great research showing platform metrics act as gravitational setters of behavior.
I love that phrase, like a retweet button literally exerting gravity on human behavior.
Totally. And then Tier 3 is the mathematical operationalization, the actual toolkit.
Okay, this involves UMP and HDBS scan for trajectory clustering. Explain UMP to me simply.
Imagine a million puzzle pieces on a table. No pictures on them, just slight variations in shape.
Okay, a very frustrating puzzle.
Right. UMP is an algorithm that looks at all those pieces simultaneously and groups similar ones into piles on a map.
So it finds the constellations in the behavioral data without you telling it what to look for.
Exactly. And once you have the clusters, you use the augmented Dickey-Fuller test for stationarity.
Meaning checking if the pattern is actually stable over time?
Yes, checking if it's a permanent fixture or just a random evaporating trend.
And finally, Markov chains for intercluster transition matrices.
Which basically tracks the probability of a user moving from one behavioral cluster to another over time.
So why does all this matter? Let's bring this to the real world. Why should a product manager or founder care?
Because it gives them a precise language. You aren't just creating a habit, you are generating a statistically stable behavioral cluster.
You can actually measure if your new app feature created an institution. And for regulators.
It replaces vague questions like, is this platform fair? With empirical ones like, what behavioral clusters has this stabilized?
Right. You can look at India's UPI ecosystem reshaping participation, or Reddit's community notes adjusting parameters in real time.
It creates methodological accountability for big tech. They are empirically responsible for the spectra they generate.
So to summarize, classical theories of rules collapse under algorithmic realities. Platforms run undocumented governance experiments.
And redefining institutions as behavioral clusters finally lets us measure the digital age.
It's incredible. But before we go, what is the final provocative thought here?
Well, if platforms dynamically adjust their filters based on our behavioral clusters, what happens when we introduce AI agents? When your personal AI assistant starts reacting to the platform's signals on your behalf?
Oh, wow. Whose behavior is even clustering at that point?
Exactly. Are we about to see the emergence of autonomous machine-to-machine institutions that entirely bypass human cognition?
That is just wild. The algorithm reacting to the AI completely outside of human rules.
It's a frontier we are completely unprepared for.
Well, that gives us all something massive to mull over. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Next time you're scrolling, ask yourself what invisible algorithmic constraints are shaping your world today.